Eureka County have been good enough to allow me to do the work that I like to do, and I'll stand up to anyone in order to protect those folks.
Their rights.
And their rights. Certainly.
Right. And it was in, I guess, the crime bill where was signed not too long ago, where they're going to put 1,000 or 100,000 new cops on the street. The federal government's going to provide.
Well,
give me your insight on that, or give them your insight.
I think what I have to say about that, it's noble to say that we're going to provide 100,000 more police officers in the United States, and there are certainly communities who need that help. There aren't enough police officers in a lot of places. Fortunately, we don't have that situation in Eureka County. But what my concern is, in regard to that, is that that's done through block grants, et cetera. And so the federal government gets a lot of money together and they throw it at the problem, which they're kind of famous for doing. Each time, or each one of those police officers now is tied to that federal money. And my concern is that each time that a law enforcement administrator like myself takes federal dollars, and frankly, I don't take any federal money in regard to those kind of functions, to financing salaries for police officers, because it places me in a position of having to, better yet, it places the federal government in a position to dictate the policy for my office to me. And that takes away that accountability that I have to my constituents, to the folks that elected me to office several times. And I don't think that the bureaucrats in Washington have the knowledge or the wisdom to administer law enforcement in Eureka County. Frankly, the bottom line, of the people of the various counties, and the people of Eureka County particularly, of losing that control and having then no recourse in regard to their destiny. In terms of who are they going to hold accountable? Some bureaucrat in Washington? We know that doesn't work. The bureaucrats aren't responsible to anyone, right. Frankly. I go right to the very first book of laws that was written in the state of Nevada for the territory in 1861. And I go to the very first paragraph of the very first paragraph that absolutely adopts the common law in the state of Nevada.
Right. And I'd like to read it because it's there. And I will read it. It says, even Chapter 1, Section 1 of the laws of the territory of Nevada in the very first paragraph reads, the common law of England, so far as it is not repugnant to or inconsistent with the Constitution or laws of the United States or the laws of the territory of Nevada, shall be the rule of decision in all courts of this territory. Furthermore, the laws of the territory of Nevada were subsequently ratified by the first Nevada legislature and remain in full force and effect today. This says Nevada is under common law.
And I didn't just write that. That is absolutely an excerpt from it, and that's right, quotes verbatim with the very first paragraph of the laws of the territory of Nevada. Nevada wasn't even a state. The territory of Nevada. The very first paragraph says that Nevada adopts the British or the English common law. And truly, the sheriff is a common law officer. You'll find him, as we discussed earlier, provided for nowhere in the United States Constitution or the Constitution of the state of Nevada. His authority is assumed under the common law.
This is
one of the reasons that has happened, and one of the reasons, in fact, it's the underlying reason why we have so much chaos throughout the state of Nevada on this issue. Why people's property is being stolen right and left. And not only here, but in other states throughout the West, too. Why the BLM and the Forest Service are running over people right and left. The fundamental reason why that's happening is because we have a virtual total breakdown in the exercise of lawful jurisdiction by the state and the subdivisions, the counties.
right.
We have sheriffs, and just like in the Raymond Yowell case, you have a sheriff that any way you want to slice that, and a brand department aiding and abetting the theft.
That's right.
Now, this is a total breakdown of any lawful structure in the state. I want to go back to. And that goes back to the aiding and abetting of this theft by sheriffs who were too limp-wristed to exercise their authority.
That's right.
DAs that take a powder when something like this comes down. You know, when Ben Colvin's cattle were stolen here a few months ago,
Yes.
and we looked around for the sheriff and the district attorney in Nye County, you know where they were? Fishing in Alaska until things
really?
quieted down. Now, when you've got those kind of people in elected office, you're going to have cases. I asked my sheriff, I said, if you took the same position with the bank over here across the street that you've taken with the livestock industry here in the county, and if you let it be known that a certain class of people could rob that bank anytime they wanted to,
right.
how long do you think it'd be till it was robbed? And robbed repeatedly. It's aiding and abetting the crime.
Exactly.
And as long as you have sheriffs that, again, are too limp-wristed to exercise their lawful jurisdiction and authority. I know here several years ago, I was asked to speak to the Western States Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. And there was a sheriff from one of the Nevada counties came up to me and he said, I'm having all this trouble with the Forest Service, this, that, something else. And I listened to him and I said, well, what you're going to have to do is exercise your lawful jurisdiction. You have the jurisdiction. You're the chief law enforcement officer in the county. The Forest Service has no law enforcement authority. You need to understand that and let them know it. That'll take care of your problem.
Right.
You know, he would never do that. He never would do it. The end result was the stealing of Raymond Yowell's cattle. Okay? And where we have seen sheriffs that do nothing more than send them a simple letter and say, boys, I'm the sheriff. I'm the chief law enforcement officer in this county. And there's not going to be any impoundments, any theft of property on your part. If any of that is done, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with a lawful court order or warrant. And if you have a problem in this county, you come to us with a court order or warrant, we'll serve it for you. But don't you go around acting like law enforcement officers, because you're not. And where we've had sheriffs do that, such as Clark County, such as Owyhee County in southern Idaho, and there's some in Utah, there's one in Wyoming, one up in Wyoming where the sheriff put him in chains, took it to the 10th Circuit to get him, and the 10th Circuit upheld him and said he did just what he had the right to do.
Right.
So if we can put people in office or get these ones in office to stiffen their backbone enough to exercise their lawful authority, this stuff will end.
Right.
Because where the sheriff stands up, this stuff ends.
Sheriff, but evidently in Utah, there was a little lady that had her cattle seized by these same yahoos. The sheriff went down there and loaded up her cattle, drove them back home to her ranch, and they never messed with her no more. So again, part of the solution is for these local guys to stand up and be what we pay them to be.
You know, that is so true. Because really the key in this is for sheriffs to stand up and exercise their lawful authority and quit going around to their handout for another grant, welfare grant from the government. And there is no such thing as free money. Every time you take one of those grants, there's strings attached. And so many of these sheriffs have taken so many handouts that they are absolutely compromised and paralyzed as far as doing what they were elected to do.
There is no...
This is evil. And I have to remember back in 1843 when Alexis de Tocqueville came to America. And he said, you know, I looked for the greatness of America. What was the secret to her greatness?